Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Jamz with Joe, Shak and Sam, where we exchange the songs we've been listening to the most this week and then chat about them. So let's jam.
My song this week was Cemetery Breeding by Canadian psychedelic rock, indie rock band Black Mountain off their latest album, 4, released in 2016, I think.
Yep, 2016, yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought this was an extremely enjoyable slice of indie rock, twisted under the influence of psychedelic influences. The best parts about it for me were the synths and vocals. Stephen McBean's vocal delivery I thought was full of like really passionate energy that gave life to this description of these two lovers connecting with one another physically and emotionally in just this really joyous manner. And the female vocals as well that join him are another highlight of that. I don't think it would be nearly as accomplished as well, though, without the accompanying synth. The synth sound, to me anyway, like quite old school, like they could have been ripped from some kind of 70s progressive rock album. But like their use as like texture rather than flair, like, I think made them sound fresher than they would have otherwise. Even more so when you like compare how synth is used in more modern electronic or indie music. I don't have any major complaints about the track, really. It reminded me in many ways of the kind of like happy, sad vibes you get from listening to jangle pop artists like The Cure or The Smiths. I'm not entirely sure why, but I got that vibe. But yeah, overall just really, really enjoyable.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I have to say I didn't get the jangle pop vibe myself. But it's an interesting reaction to the song.
I think it does share some things in that there's a certain thing that jangle pop bands have that's just kind of sad.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Melancholy.
And while this song is like a love song, kind of, it's not a happy song, really.
Well, jangle pop has that kind of melancholic pop vibe.
Yeah.
It's like it's still poppy, but it's very, like REM and stuff as well. Yeah, I listened to this album last year when it came out, but I never really returned to it that much. So this song was far from fresh in my head. I really love the spacey keyboards behind the guitar in the intro. One thing I have to say is that I'm slightly skeptical of his vocals when they lead by themselves. But I think with the woman's vocals behind it, it holds a much nicer sound. Funnily enough, with Sam choosing Limo Wreck, I actually felt like it might have had some influence or some vibes that reminded me of that kind of alt rock, soft grunge sound, which I'll get onto a bit more later. Yeah, the keyboards were definitely the highlight of the track for me. The keyboards in the beginning were really cool, and I really adore the keyboards that do the kind of solo-esque thing around the 2-minute 20-ish mark. They kind of, take the forefront a bit at that point, and they have some really nice melodies and things going on. So I really like the keyboards in this song. I thought it was basically the thing that really made it stand out as a song. The lyrics, I might even go to say they were a bit cliche at times. Stuff like, "Oh, when you looked in my eyes, I was dreaming of suicide." I don't know. It sounds a bit corny, I guess.
I feel like it's melodramatic on purpose. I feel like there's a certain tongue-in-cheek kind of campiness about certain parts of the lyrics.
Yeah, there could be. It's definitely very not subtle.
Because certain parts of the contrast, the way they use the contrast of love and death, are really cliched, and certain parts aren't, like them literally fucking in a graveyard.
Yeah, there was definitely some more interesting bits into the lyrics. So yeah, maybe it is kind of self-aware in that sense. But yeah, other than the keyboards and the nice harmonizing, I don't know if I feel there's anything too special about the track. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that I dislike it. I'm just not sure this is where the band's strength is. I think they suit, especially his voice, I think suits a heavier, rockier sound. I'm not sure he has the tone or the kind of emotional depth in his voice to carry a ballady, bluesy song like this. and it kind of sounds a bit forced and a bit, I don't know, tacky for me. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on him because it's not like he's a bad singer or anything. It just feels like he kind of lacks some genuineness. I don't know which one's the right word.
I don't know what words to use.
There's kind of a bit of a staleness. It almost when I was talking about having the kind of alt rocky grungy vibe, it's almost a bit like the kind of post grungy sound that came after it that it reminds me of, which isn't necessarily a good thing because I don't really like post grunge, and it just kind of reminded me, especially the vocals and the way they were done. You know, as you said, with the kind of melodrama in it, which even if it was kind of like self-aware in its doing it, you know, I'm still not keen on the sound. It still sounds too just doesn't sound like there's enough like real emotion there. I think I would have really liked if the woman had led the song. Because I feel like vocally the parts that she was present in were the best parts. So yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the song. It's a decent track. I don't remember it being one of my favorites when I listened to it, although it was a while ago. But yeah, I think I definitely think his voice is more akin to the rockier vibes that they go to in other places on the album.
I'm trying to think of what I can add to what you two have already said. Like both of you, I really enjoy the dreamy, psychedelic-y synths and how ethereal the song sounds at certain points. I like the lyrics personally. I like the contrast when it's cliche and when it isn't. Like I feel like it just feels really youthful to me.
It feels like full of like rebellious, just kind of.
I feel like it's meant to sound like a teenager wrote it. I like that it's the guy singing it, because then it's like it's almost as if it's something that this kid has wrote looking back on certain things, and like it's in those flashbacks that the woman's voice joins in and I will love you forever.
I didn't think of it like that. That's an interesting. Yeah.
But I think I would have liked the exact same thing, but the reverse. So he had joined in.
It's fair enough, yeah.
Flashback parts, and she had just been the. I think there was a lot of good in the harmony, so I wouldn't have removed the harmony, or I wouldn't have removed him totally.
They sound so good together.
Yeah, I really like how they sound together.
But besides that, I just really like the emotion in it. It strikes a chord with me. I think it's really catchy. I like the vibes. I'm not usually into psychedelic stuff that much, but or dreamy stuff, as regular listeners will know, dreamy stuff doesn't really tick my box, but this does. I feel like I listen to this song like so often. It was on my Spotify most listened to songs of last year, and I still listen to it like at least once every few days. Like it's just I don't know what it is. It's just
has a lot of replay value for you.
Yeah, it's just sick.
My track this week was
wait, first.
Yeah.
How are we gonna pronounce this name?
I was just about to say, my track this week was, seen as nobody knows how to pronounce.
I've heard the man say it himself.
What does he say?
He says Xxxtentacion.
Tentacion.
Yeah.
Okay, well then we'll stick to that. Most people just call him Triple X, but we'll stick to Xxxtentacion or Tentacion. So, Xxxtentacion was a kind of 2016 phenomena. All of his big songs, I'm pretty sure, came out last year. He was not a big, but he was he had a lot of buzz around him in the trap scene. And I'm Sipping Tea in Your Hood was one of his biggest tracks, one of the tracks that had the most buzz around it, as well as songs like Look at Me. And yeah, that's it really. Trap song from Xxxtentacion.
You can tell how young he is
Definitely.
just from this song, and I swear, like he's barely even in the song. It's just like one verse.
Yeah,
But
quick
like
now.
the intro, it's like this like almost like video gamey sounding, just like noises like before the bass even kicks in. Like it's like a skit at first, and you can just hear like kids talking. It sounds like he's just talking with his mates,
Yeah.
and then it kicks in with the beat, and he rasps up his voice, and you can hear like his posse in the back. I guess I enjoy his super aggressive voice, and I like it when the beat cuts out and you can just hear his voice, and you can hear like he's breathing and everything, and the and
really quite intense.
the production sounds really bare bones as far as the vocals are concerned. Like I feel like they've just recorded it, turned it up, and then just like left it how it was.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very raw.
I like how the percussion is really minimal, so it just lets the bass speak for itself as the beat, essentially.
Yeah.
There's like a few like trappy clicks and hi-hats and shit, but not much, which I think is pretty cool. I would have liked more than just one verse with like a little bit of a refrain of the title of the song, and like that's it.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting decision. I'll talk about it later when I kind of say my thoughts on it.
But at the same time, if it had gone on for longer, though, it may have lost some of its power and some of its like just like intense.
It's a bit like a
energy
punch, really.
Yeah, it's just like this short burst. Yeah, I can imagine listening to it at the gym because it's just good for like adrenaline and for just like going hard.
Now you might want to step back. Perfect. Yeah. No, look.
And boy, sipping tea in your hood. What the fuck is up, you buttercup? Perk in that blunt, smoking suicide, bloody blunt. Pussy boy, you talking shit for Twitter. It ain't not enough.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely energetic music.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I liked it. But I don't think there's enough there to like keep my attention. It hits me, but like it doesn't hook me. Like it's a shallow wound. Like it doesn't get its nails into me.
Right, okay.
The bass just goes on for like 2 minutes at the end, like after he's stopped, and it like changes a little bit, but not much. Like I feel like I don't know how much of a choice that was, and how much of that was just like, okay, let's leave this running until we've got like a song's worth.
I think that was definitely. I mean, I find it very hard to think it was not an artistic choice, because I've never heard a song do that before, where half the song is rapping and the other half is just the beat looped until it ends. Like I feel like that is too unusual for it to have just been an incidental thing.
He said what he needs to do, and now he shall just sip tea and let the bass do the talking.
Yeah, and I will. Yeah, I'll definitely pick up on that point.
Like, if you heard this in a club or at a pre-drinks, or as Joe said, if you put it on like your gym playlist, you would get pumped. Like, you get turned as fuck, right? And I don't really know how to describe like that kind of feeling. You just kind of need to listen to the track and experience it. But
yeah, like you say, it's really something you have to just listen to.
I'll try though. I'll try. Like, would you say this is kind of industrial hip hop?
I would say that this is definitely unusual hip hop. I'd say it's a bit industrial. It's way noisier. It's way more abrasive. Than your average hip hop or your average trap. I mean, it's definitely not your bog standard hip hop.
No, not at all.
It's far too loud. But yeah, there's definitely an industrial element to it.
Yeah. So like the thing I immediately drew comparisons to, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Jasse Onfroy. I immediately compared his delivery and the way the music was handled to Death Grips.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah. And yeah, so in the same way MC Ride attacks the mic, and I feel like I'm being attacked by MC Ride's voice, I felt the same way here.
He's
same
kind of like the
beat as
young
well.
trap version of Death Grips.
Yeah, there you go. If you're looking for some trap in your Death Grips, you found it. But yeah, I just loved how super warp loud and just straight up wobbly the bass sound. I'd love to hear it on like a proper subsystem. I think like Joe was saying, like it doesn't really hook him. I don't think there's a huge amount of like artistic value here, but like I said, if you were to put it on your gym playlist or like hear it at a club, it would certainly get the job done and getting you turned up.
I think I definitely disagree that there's not that much artistic value, but I can kind of understand why it may feel like that for you, because I feel like you'd really need to have a context of a lot of trap music to kind of get what is so kind of artistically left field about Xxxtentacion and why he kind of got the buzz that he did. You know, I'll get into it later because I've written a bunch of stuff. The intro of the song I really like. It kind of reminds me of a kind of horror aesthetic. You know, like in haunted houses where they find those old wind-up music box toys, and they play it. You know, and it's really spooky and but kind of weirdly innocent. There's that kind of tone. It reminded me of that kind of wind-up music box sound, but kind of trapped in a loop for a small portion of the song, instead of it. Usually those wind-up music boxes, they kind of go on climax and then they shut. And obviously, there's definitely a spooky vibe in a lot of trap. They definitely go for the spooky sounds. But usually, and this is kind of what I meant when I meant in the context of other trap. Trap is kind of like, it's usually a lot more laid back, or at least it's a lot more quiet usually. It's very hard to think of trap music that is this abrasive. Any other trap music that is this abrasive or this loud. You know, even songs like Panda that aren't laid back necessarily, they're not loud or abrasive. You'd never describe a song like Panda as being loud or abrasive.
Like, something like Bitch, You Guessed It. Like, it's aggressive, but it's not like the beat itself isn't.
I guess, yeah. Abrasive. It's not abrasive, yeah. I think that's the thing. Another thing going on to that, usually it's the spooky kind of melody that's kind of central to a trap song, and it usually is like on the top of the beat. But here, the kind of spooky melody that comes in the chorus, the one chorus, it gets totally drowned by the like absurdly obnoxious loud bass line. Like, there is that spooky beat, but it's being completely overshadowed. And this is the thing I find really interesting about the bass in this song. It's not just loud. It's like the neutral bass line has crossed the threshold where it starts to become really distorted because it's so loud. It's like when you put bass on and you turn it up so loud that it just distorts.
It's like you go to your mate's car and you put the bass.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and it just distorts because it's too loud. It's like that's the neutral bass in this. It's distorted. It's so loud that it's warping because it's just too loud. Doesn't even sound like bass anymore. Just sounds like distorted fuzz. But obviously you know it's bass because it's still really deep and bassy. But it's already crossed that threshold before you've turned it up of being so loud that it's just distorted itself. The bass is just really crazy, and I think it's the noisy, loud fuzziness and this abrasive, antisocial sound that was basically all of the reason behind Tentacion's buzz. You know, I feel like it's reminiscent of when Odd Future first dropped, especially with the fact he looks super strange, and especially with the whole juvenile thing of being all about being young and stupid. There's definitely a similar vibes there. You know, Odd Future basically sold their entire thing on the fact that they were just really young and just said really dumb things, you know. And there's definitely a similar vibe with Xxxtentacion. He's definitely a kickback to regular trap, you know. It's kind of like I can make trap that kind of turns the whole of the atmosphere of trap on its head, you know. It's kind of like it's inverted. It's trap but inverted, so the bits that are usually on top are like somewhere in the background, and then the bass that kind of carries the trap is now just like overwhelming, just like smothering it. Going on to what we were talking about earlier, what I think cool artistic statement is how it's just 2 and a bit minutes and half of the song is rapping and the other half of the song is the beat. You know, because I feel like it's just such a fat fucking beat ringing out through the second half of the song. It feels like he didn't need to make the song all about him. He happily brought attention to how dirty the beat is, not just in the way that how the beat complemented him, but he was just kind of like, well, here's what I can do, but can we all just take a moment for the second half of the song to listen to how fucking disgusting this beat is? Like, it was kind of like, it was interesting in that obviously usually it's kind of like, yeah, a rapper goes, he gets a beat, he finds a beat that's going to make him sound sick, then he raps over the beat and end of story. But here it's like instrumental hip-hop and hip-hop with rapping are both taking as much of the center ground as each other. You know, kind of a bit like when you listen to the whole of the album Mad Villainy, it's like half of the album is rapping and half of the album is kind of like an instrumental hip-hop album. Like, there's a lot of songs that are just beats, and it's kind of like, I like that revival of the respect for the beat maker and the quote-unquote DJ, because in the old days, you know, rappers always, you know, Eric B and Rakim or Pete Rock and CL Smooth, it was always about the DJ and the rapper.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the rapper. And I felt like there was an interesting drawback in this song where it was just like, okay, here's the beat for a whole minute. Let's all just appreciate the beat. You know, it's not all just about the rapping, which I thought was pretty cool. And just one last thing, when I was talking about Odd Future and the whole juvenile thing, Tentacion is young, and a lot of the lyrics I think is embracing his youth, and I think they have the similar vibes that some of the shit they say is really over the top. You know, when he's talking about like perping the blunt, you know, smoking suicide and shit like that. But where I think he differs from OF, and it's an important distinction, is the street authenticity that kind of underpins these graphic, gritty, lyrical descriptions. I mean, everyone kind of knows that Odd Future were never really about that life, you know. Tyler worked in Starbucks, you know, and Earl was like middle-class African parents and shit, you know. And they never really claimed they were about that life. They kind of just parodied that life, you know. It's not like they were faking. They just never really were about that. And when they used to go on about that shit, it was in such a tongue-in-cheek way that everyone knew it wasn't like they were trying to make out like they were real hood dudes.
Yeah.
It was just, but I think when Xxxtentacion does it, he does it as in that he still has that kind of trap vibe where it's like, no, this is just how it is where I live.
And so, like, he's still growing up on the streets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like, it is exaggerated, but there's definitely more of a, like you say, kind of, this is still the streets type thing. And what I find really cool about him is he's embraced this kind of trap counterculture persona where he's like the weird kid in trap. He's the one going left field with the sounds, you know, and the kind of the volumes and the kind of sonic ideas, but he's still trap in a sense, in the real, you know, in what people
the
kind
foundation is still trap,
or what people kind of in a way vainly appreciate about trap, which is that it's these people who are just kids off the street rapping about the street in a really graphic way, you know. So I think it's cool the way he's fused this kind of sonic rebellion with these real traditional trap messages and ideas and stories. And yeah, that's it really. I just think I really like the song. I think it's a really fun song, but I also think artistically, I think there's meat to it. I don't think it's as shallow as a lot of trap. You know, I mean, there's a lot of trap that I can listen to and I can enjoy, but it gives me that kind of similar feeling that you two were talking about with this song, where it's kind of like, yeah, it's cool, but I mean, it's kind of just. Its impression is shallow on me, but I think with quite a few of Tentacion songs, it's kind of hooked me in a little deeper, just because I find what he's doing with the kind of sounds to be pretty interesting, and I really like the abrasiveness.
It's 100% more interesting than most trap.
Yeah,
to
I
me.
can agree.
Yeah. I agree. I think the only other trap I find quite as interesting is Young Thug's Barter 6 mixtape, because that is a sick mixtape. But for a totally different reason, for like the opposite reason of this. It's not loud and noisy. It's just kind of I don't know. It's just kind of strange and melodic. It's like melodic trap, Young Thug. But yeah, that's just going on about something else. But this is definitely trap that has captured the most of my attention out of probably all the trap I've listened to.
So my track this week is Limo Wreck from Soundgarden's best album, Super Unknown. This past week, I've been reconnecting with my grunge roots, and so naturally, I ended up revisiting this album. And on reflection, I think it might be my favourite album from the grunge era, better than Nevermind, in my opinion. And
Claims.
And Limo Wreck is part of the reason why. Okay. I feel like grunge has always had two faces. It either punches you in the face with that punk-esque angsty aggression, or it goes for that deep southern folk-infused sound, you know? You've got Smells Like Teen Spirit on one side, and you've got Polly on the other side. You've got Them Bones on one side, you've got Nutshell on the other side. You know, there's always these two sides of grunge, I think. And I think Limo Wreck is interesting in that it's kind of in between, I think. It's still electric, you know? Obviously, it's electric guitars, you know? It's not like Polly or Nutshell where it's just, you know, acoustic guitars and singing. There's still definitely this electricity to it. But there's definitely this bluesy, folky, sitting on the porch with a shotgun, telling stories with a straw in your mouth kind of vibe. You know, there's definitely that feeling in the verse when I listen to it. Very deep south, you know, robust feel that I get from the verse, especially the verse. Not really the chorus, but especially the verse. But I think the chorus brings a lot of the more melodramatic edge to the table. Good melodrama, and it's complemented in contrast with the rugged, rootsy verses. The lyrics are quite cryptic, I think, kind of like broken flashes of imagery. I really like the guitar in the background in the chorus. It plays the kind of riffs you would expect of a lead guitar in a hard rock song. But of course, this is grunge, so in normal alt rock grunge fashion, it's the rhythm sound that is at the forefront. That is the main sound. You know, the fat chords that are dominating, and the kind of squealy guitars are never in the front of the song. Really, you know, it's just not the alt rock way. You know, that's kind of what is the defining feature of alt rock, is that it's not like hard rock with a clear, prominent lead guitar doing shit, while the rhythm guitar just plays a few chords. You know, it's basically the inversion of that. Even though I really like this song, I think it's a great song, I feel like I don't have that much to say about it. It's a solid track off a really solid album. It's very grunge. It's very Soundgarden. You know, Chris Cornell is doing his thing, soaring with his vocals in the chorus. It's all kind of what you expect, you know, not in an insulting way, you know, because it's a classic album. So the album is kind of the encapsulation of the Soundgarden sound, obviously, because it's the, you know, seminal Soundgarden album. I don't know what it is about this song, but I just feel like I was listening to it and I was like, I'm not sure what I can really say about this. It almost feels like this is one of the most quintessential Soundgarden songs on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one of my favorite songs off the album? I don't know. It's a hard choice, you know. I really like. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, you know, because I really like Mailman. Mailman's probably my favorite song on the album. I also really like Black Hole Sun, obviously. I really like Let Me Drown. I really like Super Unknown, the title track. You know, there's songs that I would consider standout tracks. I think Limo Wreck is just like on the cusp of being a standout track. I'm not sure if I'd quite call it a standout track, but it's still like I say, it's a really great song. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's just that I don't have much to say about it, really. And in regards to your claim of Super Unknown being the best album from the grunge scene, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Questionable.
Oh, I just don't know. I can see you can make an argument, right? You can make an argument for it, but you know, you've got Super Unknown, you've got Nevermind, you know, you've got Facelift and Dirt, which are both two of my top ones. It'd be between those.
Any choice of the three that I'd like. Dirt, Nevermind. I'd
See,
accept that's In Utero to a certain extent.
Facelift is more in it for me than In Utero. I prefer Facelift to In Utero. I definitely wouldn't say In Utero was my favorite from the grunge movement. I definitely prefer Nevermind to In Utero. But yeah, it's too hard a decision. I'd say yeah, you're right. It's between those three mainly. Dirt, Nevermind, and Super Unknown would be the most in contention for the crown. But I really don't know which one I'd pick. I really can't decide. I'm edging towards Nevermind. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I definitely agree in that this sounds like definitely what you expect from Soundgarden. And I'm not even that big on like grunge stuff. Like I'm not 100% familiar with like everything I probably should be familiar with when it comes to listening to Soundgarden. And I knew exactly what to expect anyway, because this is such like a signature sound for them. From what I can tell from what I've heard, I think I prefer earlier stuff by Soundgarden. You know, like
so stuff
songs,
like Bad Motorfinger and...
you know, songs like The Gun.
Yeah,
Oh,
just Gun.
Gun is a really good track.
That's my favorite Soundgarden song.
Oh, I love that song. It's definitely up there for me as well.
And like, I feel like that's got a completely different vibe to it than this.
Yeah,
It's a lot more edgy. Not edgy in a bad way. It's a lot more, you know,
it just sounds like
rough.
It's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah,
A lot more like not messily, but it's like it's on its way.
it's a bit like I know you're not the biggest fan of Bleach, but it is a bit like the difference between Bleach and Nevermind and In Utero.
It's more like riffy, just angrier, just
closer to their punk roots that kind of grunge grew from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But the vibe that I get from songs like this and Black Hole Sun, it's like it sounds just hot, like you're in a desert. It reminds me of like Burning Man Festival.
Yeah,
like
sure.
the lumbering bass line and just like how the song sounds in the verse. It sounds like you're just like wandering, like aimless through like a desert or something. And there's all like these flashes of imagery.
Dour and just
It's kind of heavy in the way that you think when you think of heavy music. It's kind of heavy in that classical way you think of it. A bit like Black Sabbath. It feels like you're weighted down.
Yeah, it's almost drony and sludgy.
Yeah.
And the structure seems really weird at first as well. Like it goes from one verse and then like back into like another verse. Before it goes into a chorus. It like seems like it's almost aimless in parts, which I think definitely adds to the whole lost in a desert vibe.
Yeah.
And also, is the title supposed to sound like limerick, or is that just something I picked up on that isn't there? Is that pareidolia? Am I seeing something that isn't there?
I can see that limerick. Yeah,
limerick.
I think it's a fair assumption that you've made there, to be honest. Just picking up from what you said about it feeling really hot. The video for Black Hole Sun always sticks with me because of the, I don't know, it feels
hallucinations.
Yeah, and they go. There's bits in the desert in the video as well. I'm sure there are bits where don't people's like face kind of look like they're kind of melting
they
and
distorted and melting. And
it looks all hallucination-y, like you're tripping out.
Yeah. Kind of like mirages in the desert, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely I definitely get that feel when I listen to just basically the whole album
Yeah.
has that kind of really hot, dry feel for sure.
Yeah, dry. That's a good word
Mhm.
for it. It's just like, yeah. And at first, like the guitar tone, it sounds dreamy before it gets all lumbering. It comes in and it sounds really like optimistic. It's this uplifting sound, which reminded me of songs like "Today" by the Smashing Pumpkins, they all came out of grunge and everything.
Yeah. What album is that from again?
That is from Siamese Dream, I think.
Yeah. That's another.
The best Smashing Pumpkins album.
Yeah.
Listen to it if you haven't already. It's fucking amazing.
I liked it a lot, and people highlight it as like one of the great grunge albums. But
Melancholy fans, please don't dislike this video.
Melancholy's good, but it's just like it's not as grungy. It's more like it's more alternative,
Peaceful Ghost
more
on that
gloomy, as the name may suggest. But yeah, that's a personal thing. That is because I tend to prefer things that came from grunge that like aren't quite like quintessential grunge, but things that evolved from it, like Smashing Pumpkins and Placebo. And
I think I know what you mean.
Post grungy stuff.
Yeah, but I think post grunge has also produced some of the worst music in existence.
Probably.
You know, like Nickelback is basically post grunge.
Nickelback.
Seether, sorry Sam, but Seether is post. And there's this horrid post grunge, like super sanitized, like just disgusting sound that came out of grunge, out of post grunge. But there is that, there is that fucking Smashing Pumpkins type thing, but that was very much 90s. So when we're saying it comes out of grunge, we mean like months after the big grunge releases, a year or two after the big grunge releases.
Not like modern music.
Yeah, not like 2000s post grunge. I think that all kind of Foo Fighters and. Disclaimer: I really, really don't like the Foo Fighters, and they're kind of like the daddies of that kind of music, and they probably did it the best. I don't think Foo Fighters are as bad as a lot of the really bad post grunge, but they are kind of like the daddies of that genre, of that
stained,
horrible 2000s ultra sanitized southern rock grunge, post grunge, just basically. You feel sick.
Puddle of mud.
Yeah, all those bands. Just no. Absolutely.
Everything is blurry. Everything is so messed up.
It's like new metal, but for rock, basically. It's like the
new rock dumb music. Southern, just lame rock music.
Yeah, it's just lame.
Have said like it's new metal, but for rock. I said it's new metal, but for wimps.
Boy,
implying.
Limp Bizkit is for hard men.
Like, you're gonna listen to Limp Bizkit. You're not exactly like curling up and like feeling sorry for yourself. No, you feel a lot more energetic listening to break stuff than.
Yeah, but who's listening to it? That's the question. Who's listening to break stuff?
The same people that listen to Five Finger Death Punch. The kind of person you don't want to be.
Shots.
But anyway, back to the song.
Mm-hmm.
Best thing about it is Chris Cornell.
It's the best thing about Soundgarden, really.
I agree.
Chris Cornell's voice is just ridiculous, man.
Anything he touches is gold. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. Oh, anything. Like, it's good. It's like his voice is sick in like the verse and the intro and everything, and then it gets to the chorus and he does that signature like I can't even do it, but I wish I could.
So good, man.
I think
that howl.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about the Big Four of grunge was that they all had really different singing approaches to singing. Like Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Eddie Vedder, and Chris Cornell. None of them sound anything like each other, really.
Yeah, I can agree.
I don't know if you agree, but there's really not that much similar, especially considering they're all from the same fucking city. Like you'd expect them to all sound exactly the same, but they're all very
Maybe Kurt and Eddie sound a little bit similar
I
sometimes.
feel like Eddie almost sounds like a hard rock vocalist. Like
Eddie Vedder sounds like if a lion was made into a vocalist.
He sounds very close to hard rock. I feel like Pearl Jam was the closest to being to the hard rock scene than all four of them.
Rocky, hard rocky.
Yeah, they had arena rocky vibes, and I think Eddie Vedder had the most arena sounding voice out of the four of them.
Jeremy is probably the most arena rocky sounding.
It's amazing though.
Yeah,
it's such a good song.
It is a really good song. But yeah, I feel like Kurt had a really punky feel to his voice.
Yeah.
I think Lane had the most tortured sounding voice. His voice, I feel like his voice was just like the most sad, just like naturally sad or like naturally tragic voice. I feel like Chris had the most soaring vocals,
kind of
powerful one, yeah. And Eddie had the most dramatic or the most like I don't even know how to explain it. Not operatic. He's not operatic, but a theatrical. He had the most
kind of grandeur to it.
Yeah. I think Chris is. I think all four of those bands, the vocalist is definitely the best, if not one of the best parts of the band.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorites because I feel like, as you both described, that it captures both sides of what makes grunge like grunge. I really enjoy the kind of plodding, like aimless, just kind of doom feeling verses, and then this sudden explosion into this just brilliant soaring vocal from Chris Cornell, and this like this powerful guitar as well. It's not Black Hole Sun levels of good, in my opinion. That's still the best song on the album, but it's one of the best grunge songs in my opinion. If you wanna show someone exactly what they're getting into for grunge and what they can expect from like the highest qualities of grunge, then this is like a key example you can give them.
Mm-hmm. You know what I think might actually be the best grunge song ever? Wake Up by Mad Season.
Oh, it's so good.
It's ridiculously good.
To what extent is that grunge though? Like
I think that is the not the epitome, but I think that is definitely very signature of, like I said, the other side of grunge, the slow, sad, kind of acousticy, like Nutshell and stuff like that.
It's my favorite kind of grunge.
You've completely removed the punk element if you listen to that album.
Exactly, that's what I mean. It's the same with it's like Jar of Flies is still grunge, but there's not really anything punky about it. It's all acousticy ballads, more or less. And this is what I meant when I was talking about the two sides of grunge. There's two completely opposite sounds in grunge, but they're both equally grunge. And I think it's because grunge had a lot of influences. It's not like punk was its sole influence. It was kind of it was like a lot of things. It was an amalgamation of influences, and punk was just kind of one of them. And I think I think there's this whole southern folky bluesy thing in there as well. And I think that is something that shines in songs like Wake Up, songs like Nutshell, songs like Polly and Something in the Way.
They're all my favorites.
Yeah. I think it really complements the grunge, especially their voices, because they're all such interesting vocalists that when they really lay down a track that's about their vocals, it usually just makes for a great track,
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I guess we're done. we could ask for people to leave in the comments, what is your favourite of the grunge 4? Leave a comment down below.
Favorite album, what's best top 10
Yeah.
grunge moments
What
of
is
all
the
time?
best
Your
grunge
grunge
album?
favourites.
Go hit that comment section.
What do you like about grunge?
Send us
I
a
like the
letter.
guitars. They are nice.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's there's the big four of grunge, and there were other grunge bands, that had some, there was like
Temple of the Dog.
Screaming Trees.
What are your favourite grunge bands? Do you pick one?
My favorite grunge band would have to be, Alice in Chains, probably.
Yeah,
I
in terms
agree.
of a band, yeah.
Yeah.
They have the most
There's
interesting variation between it. Like, I can go and listen to Dirt and Facelift, and then I can just go and tune into Nutshell and get a completely different vibe. Whereas,
Yeah.
Jar of Flies is my favourite release from.
I find it really hard to pick between Facelift, Dirt, and Jar of Flies. Like they're all.
Flies wins.
I really love all three of those releases, and I can't pick between them. But yeah, Alice in Chains for me, especially, it's probably like, of all the bands I still listen to, they're probably one of the oldest bands. They're probably one of the first bands like I got into when I was first getting into kind of like rock music. So like for me, Alice in Chains have kind of like a nostalgic trump over the other three bands. Because I got into
sentimental value.
I got into AIC way earlier than
Yeah.
three. So they definitely has that element.
On the new guy.
He's okay, but as I was saying before, all four of the big four of grunge, all of the best thing about them is the vocalist, I feel. And so it's so hard to replace any of those four vocalists. And especially I think with Alice in Chains, like Lane is my favorite of the four. And I just can't. He has such a unique tone. It's just, I don't know. I don't like hearing.
Yeah.
I don't like. Fair enough, they made their own stuff, and some of their new songs are actually pretty sick. But I don't like hearing him singing the old songs. It just doesn't. It
feels a bit disingenuous.
It's not bringing the same vibe that it used to have to it.
Because he's not singing it from the perspective of understanding the song.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, like Lane was such a fucked up guy. Like he was the pain in his voice was like real. Like it was very real. A bit like Kurt.
There's a video on YouTube of him singing "Love Hate Love," and it is amazing.
It is such a good song, man. Oh my god,
it's a ridiculous song, man. Oh my god, I love that song. I know the video you're talking about as well, yeah.
The black and white like VHS recording.
Yeah.
It's fucking sick.
For sure.
Rip
Indeed.
Kurt, Rip Lane, Rip Grunge.
Rip Grunge.
Pretty much Rip Grunge, to be honest.
Grunge is like the most dead genre. Like nobody.
It just stopped.
No one has ever. Yeah, there hasn't been an album classified as grunge like in the last 20 years. Like it's over. It's fully over. Grunge is dead. It's one of the only genres like truly died. Like it just doesn't exist anymore. No one's doing it. Except Alice in Chains, but they don't count because they've been going since the 80s. Well, since early.
Well, no,
early.
Pearl Jam have just kept going.
Exactly, bands that have kept going. Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. Yeah, they're still grunge, but that's because they're just making like rehashes.
Like no new act.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's dead. The only bands still going are the bands who started it. So in other words, it's dead. Thank you everyone for listening. If you guys listen to the songs, what did you think of them? What have you been listening to this week? Let us know. If you want to check out the playlist that contains all of our weekly selections since we first started doing this, and also if you want to listen to the tracks that we discussed today, link to all that will be in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and share this video on every single social media platform that you currently inhabit.
All of them.
Every single one. Goodbye!